There's a song that I wrote because of a temper tantrum that I threw when I was 17 that ended up being a #1 all over the world. A song that I'm really stoked about on the record that is about someone that I pretty much knew was going to be bad news the second that I saw him, but I fell for him anyway. And I think that we just do that. I think we...
The song Bejeweled is a song that I think is really about finding confidence when you feel that it's been taken away.
By now, we know that there's just so much more to a Taylor song than the surface. Hear her reveal the meaning behind some of the most iconic songs of her career in this video.
There's a song that I wrote because of a temper tantrum that I threw when I was 17 that ended up being a #1 all over the world, which is a weird thing to have happen to you. I was mad at my parents. I was 17, and I was mad at my parents because they did not want me to go on a date with a guy, and they said he was a terrible person, and that and he ended up being, he was a terrible person. But I was all mad, and I was very dramatic, and I ran into my room and slammed the door and wrote a song about it, about how we were Romeo and Juliet, and they just didn't want us to be happy, and all this. It's weird because the song is working. Yes, it is good. It kind of references, it has a lot of references to palaces and princes and princesses, and it's just very strange that I would end up at a palace playing this song. Very excited about it though. This is called Love Story.
Every article is like, Taylor Swift standing near some guy. Watch out, guy. And, you know, every single article was kind of like, had these descriptions of my personality that were very different from the actual personality. And my first reaction was to be like, man, that's a bummer. This isn't fun for me. But then my second reaction ended up being like, hey, that's actually kind of a really interesting character they're writing about. Like, she jet sets around the world collecting men, and she can get any of them, but she's so clingy that they leave, and she cries, and then she gets another one in her web, and she traps them and locks them in her mansion, and then she's crying in her marble bathtub surrounded by pearls. So I was like, I can use this.
I can make the bad boys good for a weekend, and I'm a nightmare dressed like a daydream.
Yeah. That song was actually a song that I started out writing as a joke, because I had been watching this kind of fictionalized media portrayal of my personal life. Right. And I was thinking, what would I write if all of these things were true? If I really was like a crazy serial dater who's like over emotional and spiteful and like goes to her evil lair to write songs as emotional revenge. I just kind of thought about like how interesting that character actually is and what song I would write if I were her.
So the next song we're going to play for you is an acoustic version of a song that I'm really stoked about on the record that is about someone that I pretty much knew was going to be bad news the second that I saw him, but I fell for him anyway. And I think that we just do that. I think we can, even if we see red flags and we see like warning signs, a lot of the time we just walk right past them. And so this is kind of the only song that I've ever written about like taking blame for getting my heart broken, because this time like I definitely knew that it was going to happen. And I hope you like it. This is called I Knew You Were Trouble.
I call this album Red because I got the idea initially because I wrote a song called Red, and it's about, it kind of correlates all the emotions that I felt during a breakup to colors. Like losing him was blue, missing him was dark gray. But it says, you know, the reason you can't forget about it is because loving him was red, which means it was bold, it was crazy, it was out of control, it was passionate, it was important. You know, to me, like, the red emotions are the most powerful ones on the good side and the bad side. You know, like affection and infatuation and love and warmth. And then on the other side, you have like anger, jealousy, frustration, miscommunication, you know, like all those horrible ones.
Because Delicate is really a song about the switching back and forth between feeling confident enough to like have somebody like you back and then feeling like insecure, deeply, deathly insecure that no one would ever like you back. And you go back and forth between that emotion the entire song. So that's what we wanted to do the entire video, all the while having this overarching narrative of this girl is past a magical note from the person she would love to meet up with later.
The line says, "With every guitar string scar on my hand, I take this magnetic force of a man to be my lover." And that line is really special to me because I've spent quite a bit of time writing breakup songs. And songs about things not turning out the way you wanted them to, or songs about what you thought would be love and it turned out to not be that at all, or, you know, just kind of the struggle of life. I find songwriting is really just like a cathartic, therapeutic thing for me. And so there are a lot of things I've written about in my life that were like the harder things I've had to go through. So I took that as a metaphor for like, you know, the times when I was learning to play guitar and I like play till my fingers bled when I was a kid, and I still have those marks from that. And, you know, all the times I'd be like changing a string and it would pop, and I still have scars from that. But it's also a bigger metaphor for like, in life, you accumulate scars, you accumulate hurt, you accumulate moments of, you know, learning and disappointment and struggle and all that. And if someone's going to take your hand, they'd better take your hand, scars and all.
The song Bejeweled is a song that I think is really about finding confidence when you feel that it's been taken away for whatever reason. You know, you're feeling insecure, you're feeling taken for granted. One of the things we love to do at night is we love to go dancing, we love to put on an outfit that makes us feel good, and we love to feel like we're still bejeweled. And I think that there are tiny inflections of me hyping myself up to return to pop music after spending these glorious years writing folk songs and being in this metaphorical forest that I've created, which I've loved so much. But there was like a bit of pumping myself back up to be like, you can do it. You're still bejeweled. Like, I'm still bejeweled? Question mark? We'll see. But that's what the song's about.
Fortnight is a song that I think really exhibits a lot of the common themes that run throughout this album, one of which being fatalism, longing, pining away, lost dreams. You know, I think that it's a very fatalistic album in that there are lots of very dramatic lines about, you know, life or death, and I love you, it's ruining my life. Like, these are very hyperbolic, dramatic things to say, but it's that kind of album. It's about a, you know, dramatic, artistic, tragic kind of take on love and loss. And Fortnight, I've always imagined that it took place in this like American town where the American dream you thought would happen to you didn't, right? You ended up not with the person that you loved, and now you have to just live with that every day, wondering what would have been, maybe seeing them out. And that's a that's a pretty tragic concept, really. So I was just writing from that perspective.
I was going through a bit of a sad time. And I was 22, and I was in band rehearsals, and I think I was 21 when I wrote this. And I was in band rehearsals for a tour that I was about to go out on called the Speak Now Tour. And I showed up for rehearsals, and I just was really upset and sad, and everybody could tell. It was like really like not fun to be around me that day. And so I started playing guitar and just kind of playing the same 4 chords over and over again. And I just started kind of, the band sort of joined in, and I started ad-libbing what I was going through and what I was feeling, and it went on, and the song kept building and building and building in intensity, and the song just went on for about, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of us doing this, and then we got done with that, and then we moved on to the regularly scheduled rehearsal. And at the end of the day, my mom came up to my sound guy, and she's like, "Is there any chance that you recorded that?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yup," and handed her a CD. The 10-minute version of All Too Well is what was originally written for the song before I had to cut it down to a normal length song, because that's, you know.
Yeah, in case it gets played on the radio or whatever.
Because the 10 minutes is absurd. That's an absurd length of time for a song.
It's like
to
American
be.
Pie or something.
Who
Yeah,
thinks
it's a long.
that they can put out a 10-minute song? I mean,
We want
clearly
a
me.
10-minute song from you. We
Oh.
want this from you.
Well, thanks. And that's what you'll get, and that's the thing I'm the most excited about, because it's the original lyrics.
Is that?
This was right in the beginning of the pandemic when this was happening, and I think everybody was using escapism of some sort of. Everybody was looking for a way to escape from what was happening around us, and I chose creating characters. And another thing I think I should point out before we play the song is, like, there is a recurring theme in my music where I happen to love explaining or womansplaining to men how to apologize. It just gets me. It's my thing. I love it. I love to in my songs, like, write like a how-to manual, right? Love story is basically just a how-to on how to propose. This is how you do it. This will make somebody happy. Like, how you get the girl. This is how you fix it. If you've made a mistake, this is how you get her back. You know? And so I decided I'm gonna create a character of a teenage boy named James who really screws things up with the love of his life and has to apologize to get her back. And her name, what's her name, Vegas? It's Betty.
A lot of the songs on the Tortured Poets department deal with the idea of heartbreak or loss in a metaphor of something else. The metaphor in Down Bad is that I was comparing sort of the idea of being, you know, like love bombed, where someone, like, you know, rocks your world and dazzles you and then just kind of abandons you, as a alien abduction where you were abducted by aliens, but you wanted, like, this girl was abducted by aliens, but she wanted to stay with them. And then when they, like, drop her off back in her hometown, she's like, wait, no, where are you going? What? I liked it there. It was weird, but it was cool. Come back. And so she's just like, the girl in the character in the song has just felt like, I've just been exposed to a whole different galaxy and universe I didn't know was possible. How can you just put me back where I was before?
There, and so I just started writing and just, you know, it was my form of therapy, basically.
A lot of people were reading your blogs, and someone in particular was Taylor Swift.
Right.
And she called you about it and left a message. Let's take a listen.
Hey Maya, this is Taylor Swift. There's something coming up that I really wanted to talk to you about and just kind of get your ideas on. I hope you're doing well. Give the boys and Woody hugs for me. And I'll hear from you soon. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Okay, Maya, not every day do you get a voicemail from Taylor Swift. I'm sure you were like, what? You had met her, right, at a concert in Phoenix. She had read your blog. She had invited you backstage. So you had met her.
I had met her, spent some time with her, and I wasn't aware that she knew Ronan's story or who I was, but I was waiting for her backstage at her concert. I had my back turned to the door where she was coming in, and I heard somebody going, Maya, 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 and I turned around and it's Taylor. And, I was in shock, and I, had no idea that she knew about us, but she gave me the biggest hug, and this is, after Ronan had passed away, and had tears pouring down her cheeks saying, I've been following your blog for over a year, and my parents read it, and we are just so sorry and so heartbroken over Ronan.
You called her back after she left this message, and what did she tell you? Well, of course, you called her back.
I did call her back.
I'll call her back.
I sat with the voicemail for 30 minutes just to kind of process everything and let it sink in. But I did call her back, and she just told me that I have this song that I wrote for Ronan. She said she wanted to perform it on Stand Up for Cancer, and use a picture of Ronan in the background while she sang the song, and then put it on iTunes. So my proceeds of the song will go to Ronan's foundation.
To write the lyrics, she used some of the things that you had said to Ronan when he was too weak to fight, and also some of the things that you, as a loving mom, would say to him and say to each other, like what? Like,
we always told each other, I love you to the moon and back. That was the one thing we always said to each other before we went to bed. And one of my last words to him were, you know, let's get away from here, come with me, you know.
And she used those things in the song. Well, let's listen to part of the song and how she incorporated your words into her music.
So I'll never get tired of hearing the story behind a great song, because it gives us so much insight into the artists, their lives, and the process of creating. And I love all of that as a music fan. And so this was definitely eye-opening for me as it pertains to Taylor. As well as that, I'll always appreciate Taylor's candidness and sense of humor. For more great stories about Taylor's songs and her songwriting, check out this next video.